Venezuela's capital, Caracas. We've come to a street market in a poor part of town, filming with a hidden camera. Everyone around us is part of a new black market. They're reselling basic household goods, a practice banned by the government to stave off inflation. All of these products are nearly impossible to find on shop shelves.
Are you selling this toothpaste?
You want to buy it?
Yes.
We're searching for something very rare, sugar. How much for this pack of sugar?
2,700 bolivars.
This is the only bag we found in the whole market. Do you have any other packs?
No, it's the only one I have.
To buy this small bag, we hand over a stack of high-value banknotes. More than 10% of the minimum monthly wage. A few years ago, Venezuela was exporting sugar. Now, even the soda companies here can't find any. All the soft drinks bear the same strapline. No calories.
All the soft drink producers have redesigned their packaging to show that this isn't the original product.
What is it that brought a former powerhouse of Latin America to the verge of starvation? To find out, we drive 6 hours to Venezuela's Lara State, which used to be the main sugar-producing area of the country.
All this is cane that was never harvested. It's dry, there's no juice, there's nothing.
Reynaldo worked for the Pio Tamayo Sugar Company for 17 years. He was fired 2 years ago after denouncing corruption by civil servants in the company's administration.
This all used to be full of sugar cane. And a few years ago, they stopped producing cane. And the same thing happened in all the ranches here.
Reynaldo started working for the company when it was still private. Then, under Chavez, it was nationalized.
At first, things went well. We got good salaries, good benefits. But the policy was bad. The manager that they put in charge of the company, at the very least, needed to be an agricultural engineer who knew what he was doing. But instead they put a university professor in charge of a corporation, producing millions of bolivars.
Now the plant is only used to refine imported sugar.
There were 324 of us workers when it was a private company. When it was nationalized, there were around 800 workers. Too many workers, and that's what bankrupted the company.
Reynaldo and his family now get by driving motorbike taxis. His 2 elder sons were studying degrees in finance and administration, but they've abandoned university to focus on earning money, all of it to buy food.
This is today's lunch, a soup that we have prepared, but without arepa patties, because sadly the flour to make arepas costs too much. At the government price it costs around 200 bolivars, but we now have to pay around 2,000 when we can find it.
Reynaldo's family was fiercely pro-Chavez, but after denouncing abuses by local state officials, Reynaldo was fired from the local council. Now he doesn't have access to the subsidized food supplies. In Venezuela, you always pay a high price for criticizing the government.
It's one thing to be for Chavez, but it's another thing to support Maduro. I mean, who supports Maduro?
Some Venezuelans do support their president, Nicolas Maduro. The streets of Caracas are often filled with red flags and T-shirts, and statements disconnected from reality.
What we have here in Venezuela is the best.
So there's no hunger here?
No, there's no hunger. That's a lie.
Look, my love, of course we're self-sufficient because thanks to President Maduro, we're producing food. The state food distribution network is active. We're producing food, you name it. There's corn, there's cereal, there's vegetables. We're producing all of that. Onwards, Maduro, we're with you, and nothing will defeat our comrades.
This vision is echoed in state media. But dig a little deeper and you find people like this man, who works for a state company and is forced to attend pro-government marches.
Okay, we don't have much choice because all of the managers check that we go to the marches. They keep an eye on us. In my department, they keep a register of who goes and who doesn't. They give us red flags and a lunch pack. I'd say around 60% of people in my department are pro-Maduro. Around 40% are against.
But you all have to go to the marches?
We all go to the marches, yes.
Speaking out like this could lose him his job and his access to state food supplies. A threat that sparks widespread fear. Hundreds of people have been waiting all night in front of this state supermarket. The elderly, disabled people, new mothers. Tensions are running high.
And what did the opposition do? Nothing. At least my president does something.
One issue keeps coming up: the recall referendum that could see President Maduro kicked out of power.
We want a referendum.
Are you in favor of a referendum?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Is it difficult to talk here?
I don't want a referendum. I want my president. I want him to stay put. He isn't going anywhere. No one wants a referendum.
Everyone wants a referendum, everybody, because there's no food, there's no medicine. Look at the lines here since 1 in the morning. But there's nothing to buy. I'm not afraid to say it.
Behind the gates, residents of this building want to keep the crowds out and scarce goods for themselves. Selmira will have to wait a few more hours, and even then there's no guarantee she'll be heading home with any food. She and her neighbors have set up an informal exchange, pooling what they managed to find on their shopping trips.
I just swapped something for this oil, which I haven't seen for a long time. It's disappeared from markets, and it's the best oil here, and this is a big deal for me. I haven't been able to cook with oil for ages.
Selmira and her friends are middle-class women experiencing a strange form of poverty. They own their own apartments, they're well-dressed and wear jewelry, but they're undernourished.
When you find milk, it costs 8,000 to 9,000 bolivars. Our pension is 22,000 a month. How do you ever buy milk?
The little we earn goes towards buying food. We never have ice cream or chocolate. We never go to the cinema. Never.
Hunger is Venezuela's biggest emergency, but whilst people forage for food, the country is falling apart. The office of the Tal Cual newspaper looks almost empty. There were 30 investigative journalists working here a year ago. Now there are just 5. The problem, there's simply no paper to print on, a shortage which has hit Venezuela's media hard.
We show in this graphic that the newspapers that have stopped publishing, at first they stopped printing during Carnival and Holy Week, then they just stopped altogether. For example, El Carabobeño, which was one of the biggest newspapers in the country, has stopped printing.
A few months ago, Tal Cual went from weekly to monthly publication, cutting down from 32 to 24 pages. Its small team is fighting for the newspaper's survival.
Paper is imported by the government, which is in charge of its distribution and price. There are restrictions, and everyone is being affected, but we have noticed that there's more paper for state media and less for opposition papers.
In solidly Chavista areas, pro-government newspapers that hail the success of the Bolivarian revolution are handed out for free, even as the country teeters on the brink. People who can leave Venezuela are getting out in droves. The government doesn't release emigration data, but in this Brazilian cultural institute, they have an idea of the scale.
Some say 1.2 million, others say 1.6 million Venezuelans have left the country, and most of them are young people with degrees. We're losing all of these talented youngsters who would have educated the next generation.
Rooms here in which young Portuguese teachers once lived are now empty. Last year, 4 teachers from this school flew home, and 6 have left so far this year. Ivan will be next.
You're going back to Brazil, aren't you?
Yes.
It's a natural decision after giving years of service here teaching.
A brilliant student, Ivan had planned to settle here.
When I arrived from Brazil 4 years ago, things were bad, but nothing like they are today. Back then, you could imagine a future. Now we're living just for today and tomorrow. 80% of the students who studied with me at university have left.
Hunger is the biggest concern in Venezuela right now. But other serious problems are emerging, such as crime, jobs, and education. Uncertainty awaits as the sun sets on the failed promises of Chavismo.